marketing plan. I trust yourself, your friends, your family, your colleagues, and everyone else you know is happy and safe in these challenging times. What we're going to do today is going to work through some interesting, perhaps a different perspective from what you're expecting. If you've got any noise or anything going in the background, screaming dogs, children, next door neighbour mowing lawns, although probably not mowing lawns at the moment, if you could just yourself, that would help everyone if you could do that. Fantastic. So welcome. Let me get underway. So before we get going, everyone, I'd just like to ask you a general question, and by all means, if anyone would like to jump in and ask a question, or they would like to question what I said, please just jump in and put that question to me. We've got time at the end to have a real open forum for some of these topics that might challenge us, or some of these topics that you might find interesting. There's a lot of material to go through, but I'll do my best to get through it as quick as we can, but impart as much information and knowledge as we can. So my question to you all, what really is marketing? And a lot of people struggle with this. Is marketing flyers? Is it about using social media? And what I've tried to do here is answer in a way that maybe gives you a little bit more insight. Marketing is about telling people what you've got, what services, what products, tells a story about yourself. And it's about having the right communication to reach people. But more importantly, and you're going to find this very bizarre, marketing is a lot about mathematics. That's right. One of the things hopefully you'll take away from today is knowing your numbers means you know what you can adjust and what you can change. But in the end, and this is my sort of definition only, marketing is ultimately, it's the cost to acquire a client. If you start thinking about the cost to acquire a client, then you're going to have a greater perspective on things like return on investment, how much should I be spending, what is the return, how many leads I get into my business. And I really want you to start thinking about marketing from that perspective. So let's jump straight into it, and we're going to cover some of the basics that will give you an idea, frame things for you, give you a process. And by the way, there's checklists and things that you can download at the end of the session today. So don't feel as though you have to draw up your own checklist. I've got those documents that we'll put in the chat box at the end. So one of the first things we really want to talk about is, who is your audience? Who are you trying to sell to? The challenge most people have is if they don't define who they want to talk to, then ultimately they're going to be spending a lot of money talking to a lot of people who are potentially not interested. So things like demographics, their age, psychographics, things like where do they shop, what sort of things do they like. Now, if you can write a specification of your particular target audience, you're 99% of the way of creating a wonderful marketing plan. The next thing we've got to understand is define the problems, frustrations, and the issues you're solving. You may well have a fantastic product. If you're not solving the problem for the person you're trying to sell to, guess what? Nothing's going to move. So reframe your products and services as what problems, frustrations, and issues you are solving. And later on, you'll get to see why this is even more important. And also define what it is about you and not someone else, about your USP. What makes you different from everyone else in the marketplace? And think about defining your competitors and some of those hidden competitors. In these days where everything is shifting to digital, everything's becoming online. If you're traditional marketing, trying to sell your products and services in the traditional ways, you may be missing what's going on online. So it's really important to have a really good feel for who are your competitors. And what's important, which comes back to the psychographics, how likely, or how did those customers or clients or leads like to be communicated with? Is it social media, or is it Twitter, or is it Instagram? Is it by a letter? Is it by searching out on your website? You really need to start thinking about how you define that. And if it's young people, if you're targeting a young age, between 18 and 26, you really need to think about mobile devices. You really need to think about Twitter. You really need to think about Instagram. So much selling has shifted to Instagram. It's unbelievable. And over lockdown, I found myself buying my shoes, my shirts, my trousers over Instagram because I've been really impressed. So think about how they want to be communicated with. Then very quickly, think about the influences in the marketplace. What are your strengths? That's your strengths. What are the opportunities outside your business? What are the weaknesses of your business? For example, if you haven't written a marketing plan before or you don't understand marketing, that's a big weakness. And what are the threats? Is going digital opening you up to incredible competition? Just do a scanned review of those 4 items. But more importantly, start thinking in terms of pest. I know you may not have heard of this before, but start thinking about the political, the economic, the social, and the technological changes that are going on. Because we're all aware of Brexit. What does that mean now? My wife works at JR Hospital trying to bring in new bottles and containers. It's taken 2 hours to write up the documentation for what is about a £50 order. And what are the economic impacts of what you do, given that business appears to be dampened by the experiences we're having? And social, what are some of the changes? For example, TikTok. What's the influence on TikTok on the young people? And technological, what's changing from a technology point of view? And let me illustrate this. These 4 businesses are either gone or minuscule in comparison to what they were. Virgin was a massive record store, didn't see the change, refused to change. Blockbuster could have been the next, or could have been an alternative to Netflix. And the same with all these products that are using technology to change. In a lot of cases, technology now means people don't actually own the products they're selling. So think about what are the technological changes that could impact what you have. The printing industry, the photographic industry. Think about where technology is driving that. And if you can, think forward 10 years and what might that look like? Now bring those thoughts into today and start implementing your marketing plan. Ultimately, it could mean you have to change your business altogether. Where do you position yourself? Are you just going to simply play on price? Or do you have something really unique you're going to sell? Now, of course, the more you go down the red end, means you're facing the competitors. So if you're selling purely on price, be aware that someone is likely to undercut you at some stage. And given all the online nature of everything these days, it could be from Vietnam, could be from the United States, could be from Ireland, could be from anywhere in the world. Look at what the Chinese export market has done to clothing. You can now buy online, shoes, clothes, although there may be some questions over quality. Just be aware what your main strategy is in terms of how you position your products and your services equally. Now, if you're really unique, have incredible service, and you do things exceptionally well, then there's value attached to that. Next thing we start thinking about being reliant, what is the marketing plan going to look like? What are the strategies? And one thing is for sure, being reliant upon one strategy has high risk. If that one strategy was to fail, then it's highly likely that your business will slow down, if not stop. So what we say, from a business coaching perspective, aim to have at least 5 marketing strategies. And I have a handout you can download on all those. And of course, they're changing all the time. They could be social platforms, LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and now TikTok. Which of those social platforms actually is the right one for your business? Have you got an up-to-date website? Do you have a website at all? Because if you don't have a website, you don't have a showroom to the world. Just think about that for one. If you don't have a website, you don't have a showroom to the world. And are you doing any form of paid advertising, which we'll cover, just touch upon later on? How are you measuring that? How have you planned it? How have you specified it? And the most powerful of all marketing is word of mouth. Do you have any alliances or referral partners that would make things easier? People that know you, people that can give you warm referrals. And do you work with any companies like myself and Inca? They're an ideal referral partner for me because they're accountants. They see businesses. Do you have any alliances you can form? In either close-knit or broad, you may create alliances of 5 or 6 businesses where you can all work together. And host beneficiary, and what that means is someone is willing to provide, to put you in front of their customers and put you in front of their audience. Those sorts of things are super, super powerful because they are warm leads. Think about how you can create warm leads. And as I mentioned, I'm going to provide you with an extensive list of all the different methods of marketing your business. There are about 73 different techniques. Some of them are long gone. But the interesting thing is call centers. Everyone thought they've faded and died away. The reality is now call centers are using social media to find people. And when they find people, the calls are becoming far more warm than they used to be. So they've changed. There are a lot of different ways of marketing your business. And we're going to talk about that shortly. Here's something interesting about TikTok. Of course, it's highly controversial. It's been banned and it's talk about selling and all those sorts of things. But this was launched in 2016, really targeted to a young audience, and it was primarily about videos. But let's just for 1 minute think about this. There's 500 million active users, and that was as of this time last year. It's the most downloaded app on the Apple Store, and it has 1 billion videos viewed every day. Now, if you're appealing to the younger market, the demographic, the young demographic, be aware that this potentially is one of those channels to be looking at, one of those strategies to be thinking about. Facebook has got the largest database. Facebook has got over 2.3 billion users. And if you compare that to size of a country, it's bigger than China. So imagine a database bigger than China available with Facebook. Initially, it was developed for social purpose, but increasingly, more so, people were using lead magnets. And lead magnets are a way to draw people in, free offers, download this, get that, to get your name and contacts. Facebook advertising, one might have thought for business, doesn't work. Well, the reality is using Facebook advertising for me personally as a business coach, I fill my seminars, even though it's a social platform. Increasingly, businesses are becoming more interested in Facebook. And we have Instagram. Now, Instagram is about showing your products, having a set of pictures, videos, images, stories, short stories, not long. But this is more about business to end user. So when I went onto Instagram and looked at my shoes, my jackets, I was managed to drill down and see the vast majority of all these images. It had me hooked. I kept going deeper and deeper and deeper. And younger people, younger demographics are using these devices. And let me also just suggest you think about most people, 60% of users now are on mobile devices. And the relevance of that shortly, you'll see, is just so important. And Twitter, what's going on now? What's trending? It's about people talking. And it's a great tool to share what's going on inside your business if you've got lots of followers, especially businesses that are looking to attract people where they're showing off their organizational culture. They're showing how much fun it is to be in that network, in that business. So it tends to be a lot of posts. It's people talking, it's people sharing interesting things, and highly controversial topics like the political situation in the US. Donald Trump was a big Twitter user, but hashtags, the use of hashtags and following hashtags is just so important. And LinkedIn is probably the most powerful tool you've got. Before I said Facebook has got the biggest database. Well, LinkedIn is somewhere between 600 and 700 million users. The reality is, though, with LinkedIn, you can target right down to the name of the person. Whereas with Facebook, you're targeting demographics and groups. So it's important to understand that LinkedIn is more about business to business. So one has to think about, well, who you're going to target. Where are they located and what's their purpose? What do they do? What's their role? Now, if you are lucky enough to have Sales Navigator as an option for LinkedIn, you can do some incredible searching to create lists of the ideal customers you're looking for across the world, not just here, but across the world. Imagine if you wanted to talk to business owners of medium-sized businesses of no more than 20 employees and turnover of below 3 million, you can define that in LinkedIn if that particular company and that individual is listed themselves in LinkedIn. Very powerful. So one of the challenges we have in marketing is, well, what paid advertising medium do I use? What we have here is one of the NatWest Bank seminars that I get involved in, and this was advertised on Facebook. This is Google AdWords. Now, the subtle difference being Facebook is pushed upon people. It's pushed into the market. Google AdWords means you're trying to get to the top of the list of those people searching for the products that you have. So they require a slightly different strategy. This one here uses a lot of lead magnets. This one here, you need to get to the top of the list. What that means, getting to the top of the paid advertising list, could mean paying a lot of money per click. So you need to be a little bit clever and unique about some of the keywords that you use. For example, some of the advertising I do on Google AdWords, I could be paying £35, £40 a click because I'm competing with so many others to get my name, my company exposed and at the top of the list. So I don't use it. I just don't use it. The next thing we've got to start thinking about is designing a sales process. So we want to think about designing a sales process that nurtures rather than selling. And since the lockdown, messaging has completely changed. No one's really interested in having something pushed in front of them. They say that it takes somewhere between 7 and 13 touches before someone is interested. So think about a process by providing information, sharing knowledge, building trust, getting people to understand you before you try and make that sale. There's a great book. It's called Jab, Jab, Right Hook. If you ever get the opportunity to read it, it's great because what it talks about is nurturing, building, building, building until you get the opportunity to sell. Think about a process to manage the inflow of leads and the experience. We all like to have personal experience. If you create an incredible advertisement and you've got many coming in, how are you going to manage those? What process, what system are you going to use to collect all those names and contacts, and how do you reply to some of them over time to time? And again, I'll just reinforce, the more touches, the greater the conversion rate you're likely to have in this nurturing program. The use of ClickFunnels can automate so much, becoming ever so popular. And a ClickFunnels is simply an automation tool. Put your landing pages, to put videos. So what happens, you click here, it takes them down another process. So it's a very interesting way of managing the inflow of all those leads that you're potentially likely to get. And I think at the end now, people are starting to see that they want to hear stories. They want to feel as though they've had a personal impact, because after all, people now buy from people. Of course, brands do have power. There's no doubt about that whatsoever. But people really are interested in buying off people. So what do we do with all these names? A lot of people keep names on spreadsheets, have spreadsheets all over the place. Think about how you can bring all your contact data together, the name, the address, the telephone numbers, because that is the basis of your CRM. It also is the basis of going back to them time and time again, once they have accepted, of course, through GDPR. Incorporate it in some form of CRM system. There's lots of low-cost CRM systems around now. MailChimp, the free version of MailChimp, is a great one just to get email marketing and managing leads in a great way. What I'm going to do here is going to just play you a quick video. Just bear with me while I get this up and running. Are we back? Can you see my screen now?
Yes.
Yeah.
Great, okay. So I'm not sure why we couldn't do that, but let's just move on. But suffice to say, ClickFunnels are just one of those things you need to start thinking about using. So when we talk about your message and what you're saying, redefine your offer by afters. Now, what do afters mean? I'll give you a quick example. Do we really want to buy or use the services of an accountant, of a business coach, of a solicitor? I'm not so sure. With an accountant, we really want to make sure that we don't have to pay too much tax. So the problem that's been solved for me here is tax. Not an accountancy business, nor not a solicitor. The solicitor may keep you out of jail or make sure you comply with certain things. So think about what the afters, what are the impacts of the products or services you're offering. For me, as a business coach, it may be cash flow. It might be high growth. It might be talking about a strategic plan. So business coaching is not the offer. The offer is having that plan, building that cash flow in the business. So really think about redefining your offer so when you talk to your audience, they understand the problem that you're solving for them. Less is more when you're trying to get your message across. There's a simple concept called ADA, a really punchy headline that's meaningful, something to hold the interest, a little bit of description, and then a lead magnet of some description. Try and keep your message as short as possible. And understand messaging has changed. It's now about people. It's about empathy. And people want to see that you're real. They want to be able to see that you can be trusted. And it's just one of those things that's just happened due to COVID. Authenticity really is driving a lot of activity, a lot of connections. So following the fundamentals, don't sell straight up. Provide lots of information, downloads, white papers, tips, but provide just enough, not everything, that it spurs interest, because the main thing is you want to be able to create a conversation, a meaningful conversation that might lead to the eventuality of a sale or a purchase. And think about building trust and nurture that relationship. As I mentioned earlier, 7 to 13 touches is really what needs to happen on the online and digital environment. The reality now is video has taken over text, it's taken over images. If you don't have video in part of your marketing strategy mix, I'm afraid that you're at a severe disadvantage. People like stories. Tell your story. Not too long though, but tell your story. Have video testimonials. Video testimonials that really reach into the emotions of how you've influenced, how you've changed people's lives, how you've impacted their business and made a difference and solved those problems they had. And use snippets of those to pepper through all your different marketing strategies. And as again, I just want to say, without video, you're absolutely at a distinct disadvantage. Now that you've done all this work, you've defined your market, you know the platforms you're going to use, you've done a whole lot of work, your leads start coming in. And of course, the first point of contact could be your last point of contact. This is all about having the exceptional experience the first time they come into your lead magnet, or they come into your website, or they arrive on your Facebook, or they arrive at whatever mechanism you have. So first point of contact is just so important. It has to be easy to follow, easy to read, exciting, interesting, addresses the problem quickly. And of course, most people now are on mobile. So your website has to be mobile friendly. If it's not mobile friendly, you could be risking 60% of the digital or online market. Mobile friendly. When we start talking about bringing leads in, we need to bring all your leads in. We need to funnel them to a place. Now, prior to ClickFunnels and the like, we would drive most of our leads. They might not be driven anywhere. They might just sit on Facebook. The advice I would give is drive as much as you can, as much as your traffic back to your website. Why would you do that? Well, you might have dedicated landing pages for specific items, or there might be something embedded on your website. But your website is your showpiece to the world. Your website is your shop to the world. You really want to drive as much traffic back, and look at the bounce rate of when that traffic does arrive on your website, because it's going to tell you a lot of things. And of course, what's going to sit behind that is a ClickFunnel or a CRM that gathers all those people that are coming to your website. So what do you need to do with your website? What's important about it? There's lots of all kinds of strange terms and things, but this is the simplicity of it all. You need to give Google what it's looking for. Google needs to see what we call SEO. SEO, simple term, search engine optimization. In other words, the keywords that you use for your business and selling your business are embedded across the website. So when someone goes looking for it, bingo, your website lists it. And the same as AdWords. What is Google looking for? Well, Google is looking for those three things to drive you up the list, up the ladder. If you've enhanced the names, if you're using AdWords, if you use local, most businesses are looking for local. If you comply with those three things, amongst a few others, then you've got a high chance of driving your name, your business up the searching list in Google. Thing is, local will always take preference, unless, of course, the words or phrases can't be found. So SEO, in other words, having the right words, they change from time to time. They swing around. They've gone from one word now to 3-word phrases. Think about what people are going to type in, and that needs to be embedded across your website. So now we've got all this research done. We've reviewed our business. We know who we're going to talk to. We know how we're going to reach them. We've got our messaging right. The answer here now is, this is where the mathematics comes into play. You must know your numbers. I'm going to give you a really good example of this in a minute. Test your advertising first. Never launch into a big campaign. Test it quietly on Facebook or whatever medium you're using. One of my very big clients does lots of letterbox drops. Yeah, it still works. And they changed around, and the inquiry rate lifted by 15%. They only did a small target market test. When you do the test, then you can have confidence about spending money on investing into that marketing program. And think about the concept of invest versus cost. A lot of us, I've got to be careful what I say about accountants here, but a lot of us think about money we're spending in our business as a cost and overhead. But here's a simple equation I'd like you to take away. If you gave me £100 and I gave you back 1,000, is that a cost or is that an investment you've made? Start thinking about marketing as an investment, and it becomes an investment when you know your numbers and you've tested it and you prove that it works. A lot of these big corporations spend millions and millions of pounds in marketing and say, well, we know some of it works and no, some of it doesn't. What a load of rubbish. That is just poor knowledge of test and measure. Test and measure everything you do. Otherwise, you don't know where to improve. Small changes make massive outcomes across the whole marketing field, and measure everything, as I mentioned. Here's a really interesting exercise. This is a live client of mine, and they spend money on direct mail, advertising, Facebook, LinkedIn, referrals, networking, website, and cold calling. And look at how much they've spent, 13,500. And the prospects they had, they got 15,000. And the cost per prospect worked out 126, and they got 243 leads, and they ended up with 16 clients. One might say, well, that's not bad. Well, if you look at the numbers and understand what's actually happened in here, you'll see that the cost per client on Facebook, as opposed to all the other cost per clients, was £167. And when they diverted all the £13,500, they went from 16 clients to 81 clients. That's the power of knowing the numbers in your business, analyzing what's going on in your business. And here's a really good example of a small business. They've got 1,000 leads. They convert 1 in 4, means they get 250 customers. Those customers buy on average twice. Each time they spend £500. Sorry, that's the total sales. And each time the average sale value is 300, and that gives them a revenue of 150,000 and a margin of 25%. Now, what I mentioned before about testing and working on small things, imagine if you could fix or improve all those items by a small 10%. That means the number of leads coming into your business is 1,100. And if you manage to improve the conversion rate, it might be your messaging, it could be a whole raft of things. Then ultimately, 302 customers you now have available just by doing small tweaks to your business. And then if you manage to get them to buy 10% more on average a year, and you lifted your average, that would result in 665 unit sales. And if you could then add on sales, upsell, cross-sell, and we improve that by 10%, we could get the revenue up to 219. And guess what? We haven't done a great deal. We haven't spent a lot in improving our business. And how relevant is this to marketing? Well, you can probably see now that you can put a lot of effort into a big campaign, but by knowing your numbers and adjusting some of these and working on some of these little areas, you can absolutely drive profitability and sales into your business. You could just consider the revenue just by those small tweaks. Well, illustrated there is a 46% increase in revenue just by those small changes in what you do. Now, if you improve your margin, buy better, buy in bulk, or whatever you need to do to improve your margin, the impact is you've just driven up your profit by 61%. And I know this sounds very hypothetical, but in practice, this is what happens. If you break down your numbers to something that you understand you can work on, you know exactly what to fix inside your business. Then when you pour all your money into marketing, the outcome can be just phenomenal. So what, who, when, how, why, how? How are we going to put all this together into a marketing plan? So building a marketing plan, first thing to do is to write down your goals. That is the absolute first thing to do after you've done all this other review. Write down your goals for 12 months, 3 years and 5 years. You might want to do 4 and 10, but I'd just say, just do 12 months, 3 years and 5 years. Break those 9 months down into quarters and break those quarters down into weeks. Set yourself some smart actions, because goals don't deliver themselves. By having some smart marketing goals, where you've been specific, they're measurable, achievable, realistic, and time constrained. By having actions around those goals, things are likely to happen. Commit the time, people, and resources, and cost everything and test feasibility, as I mentioned before. Always test, test, test. And set accountability. Who is going to do this? It may be you. But make sure if you're going to delegate this to someone in your business that they do it. And what is the expected ROI? We're not going to go and spend a whole lot of money, untested advertising and marketing, and not expect to have a return on what we do. And there's a great template I've got here for you to download at the end of the session. So that's in essence how to build, how to work on a great marketing plan. Just going to share with you, if you don't mind, some of the things I do in my business. I run book clubs where we work on a book for business owners that can't quite afford coaching, where we just focus on a specific area. Might be cash flow, might be sales. I run profit clubs where people come together, their focus is just sales and marketing, and we focus on sales and marketing in groups. We have action clubs, which is like a master of business, where we bring groups of 15 people together, and over the course of 12 months, take them through all the steps of building and growing a business. Mentor clubs, where we bring 3 or 4 people together, who in the end, they'll learn off each other and become incredible referral partners. The ultimate is one-to-one coaching, where one-on-one help drive efficiency in their business, but take the owner through learning and development. Also do a little bit of team coaching, planning workshops where you might want to launch a marketing plan, or you might want to launch a strategic plan into your business. We bring people together and we share experiences and we take them through a formal planning process. And at the top is executive coaching, where I would coach senior executives inside businesses, and a new range of Outthinking the series. And this is all about where are the technology trends running now? And given what we knew 10 years ago and what we know now, and potentially what is going to happen in 10 years, bring that into today's thinking. So I hope you've all enjoyed today's brief seminar.